Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. And so today we continue to discuss about the right speech that include telling the truth, not gossiping, uh, not mm, having the harsh speech, or last time we discussed about the slander speech. So let me show you. This is the chart for the right speech or right speech. So as a Buddhist, we need to restrain ourselves from untruthful speech, including lying, exaggeration, omission, um, and we need to restrain ourselves from gossiping, slandering. Uh, so last time we discussed uh, some problems in our current society that somehow people slander each other, and of course they may end up in court uh, with this type of slanderings. So uh, there's two types of defamation. Slandering is the verbal defamation, and the other one is libel. That is the print statement about the false. So again, libel is a false and unprivileged publication by writing, printing, picture, and so forth that mention about something that's false, that have the defamatory statement uh, that cause other people to be hurtful. So again, with this kind of publishing the broadcasting statement that may bring the unjust or hatred or damage uh, to the earning income of someone power or reputation. Uh, that's what we call the libel. And in the libel process, this belongs to the civil lawsuit. So anyone associated with the production of libelous materials may be sued, and the print information uh, can be libelous, and the plaintiff or the person who soon must prove the defamation, and of course the work for the plaintiffs, maybe in terms of money. And so there's 5 areas that make up the libel case. So to win the libel suit, the plaintiff must prove the statement is false, the statement was defamatory, harmful, the statement was published, the source is identified early, and someone that published those false statements must be religion actual malicious. So that is what relate to the libel. And so how could we defend ourselves about the libel suit? So we need to tell the truth. We get the consent, uh, permission from other people to print their materials. We need to have the fair commons conclusion. We need to uh, keep that privilege on respect other people's privilege. So when we talk about the truth, that's mean uh, if we can prove the fact that we print out were true, um, and we have the witness or the source that could testify about that source. uh, and if we get caught something that's untruthful, yeah, we're making the problem for ourselves. That's why whichever we put out there in the public for the public to view, it should be the truth. Otherwise, there's a lot of problem later on, and we may need to get the confirmation from other people when we want to find out about them. Even if some false statement, if they allow us to find out, so they cannot sue us, and we have to have the fair uh, before privileges mean if we want to write something, we want to publish it, that should be a worthy event, uh, and the public has the right to know, um, and everyone recognize um, that is the fair share for the public to read, so there's nothing to hide. Uh, and another one is that mm, for us, we have the right to give a good or bad review. We need to protect our right to give that kind of opinions about books, records, movie, and so forth. Mm, that's our right. But how could we avoid ourselves from a libel suit? So we need to uh, uh, retract or correct the statement if those statements are not true. So this is the ethical and legal responsibilities that we need to have when we print out something that are untrue. We need to retract, or we need to make correction. Uh, and if it's true that that's full statement, but we still insist to print out to publish, that's our fault. Uh, so that is why if we know that our intention is not to harm other reputation or business, so we will be safe. Otherwise, if we have intention to print out those false information, we'll be in trouble then. And before we print out anything, we need to double check, triple check the facts that we put out there. Any questionable documentaries that we need to check before we print out. And we need to have the view of fairness when we make the comments on other people. Um, so whether it's movie, whether it is music, and so forth, the comment on some business, we need to stay up on that type of fairness, not to have bias. Uh, so we need to recognize as we uh, need to be careful whichever thing we put out there. Otherwise, we may be in trouble for the public officers and figures. They must prove someone act uh, with the actual malicious reckless disregard for the truth. If they print out publish some wrong statement or false statement about any public officers that serve for the government. So we need to be careful when we have those kind of uh, imprint statement, especially if it relates to some sensitive uh, issues uh, like child abuse, blackmail, bankruptcy, drug addicts, um, uh, scam, and so forth. So can we recognize some problems that people may print out or can we print out some um, uh, documents that may be uh, questionable. So we have to be careful whichever thing we print out. If um, those information are not true or questionable, we have to be careful. For example, is if a local decisions can pass away, and if we go around to correct the courts for profile about that decisions, but somehow one lady said that she was a brilliant pianist, but somehow she was thief and prostitute before. And so we have to be careful if those statements are untrue. We not supposed to print out. So anyway, and that's so important for us to recognize always we do our own problems. So let me again show you some short video clips that somehow people slander each other, and this affects to their business, to their reputation, uh, and so forth. And so that's why this all kind of lawsuits around. So with this type of information there, we can learn from their mistake, not involved in those kind of defamation. So here another case to share with you.
My reputation was everything to me. Her reputation and business destroyed by online allegations she said went too far. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Gilma Avalos in for Kelly O'Kelly.
I'm Doug Dunbar. A jury says this Dallas photographer should get $1 million from a local couple who defamed her online and on television. New at 10 o'clock, Jeff Paul live for us in Dallas with her emotional interview. Jeff?
Well, photographer Andrea Polito says it is not about the dollar amount a jury just handed down. No, she says it is more about her reputation, holding folks accountable for what they say online. Andrea Polito hasn't picked up a camera to shoot a wedding in nearly 2 years.
I felt completely dead. It was my passion. And I loved my clients and I loved what I did.
She says she was forced to close her business and give up her dream job after a dispute between a client went viral.
It was really hard. My reputation was everything to me.
A reputation a jury just decided was wrongfully tarnished.
And my business was destroyed overnight.
After two clients became upset over the handling, packaging, and charging of her wedding photos, a jury found they took to the internet and local news and lied. Court documents show the couple claimed their photos were being held hostage and led a social media campaign to hurt the reputation of Polito and her business.
Paying cash everywhere because I didn't want people to see my name on my credit card.
Attorney Dave Wishnu says it took the jury a few hours to find the couple liable for defamation, disparagement, and civil conspiracy.
What you say and what you post online has real world consequences.
While Wishnu knows the couple can appeal and there's challenges in collecting the $1 million verdict, he and Polito feel it goes beyond monetary value.
It's a number. It means to me that I get my name back.
She hopes her case is a lesson to all.
It affects lives. There's someone on the other side of that keyboard, and they have a family and they have businesses.
Now, we also spoke with a lawyer representing the couple in this case. He told me their comment was no comment. Reporting live here in Dallas, I'm Jeff Paul, CBS 11 News.
So here's the case as a photographers got a bad comment, a libel, slander online, and it's doing her business. And so the judge award her $1 million, but for her, there's not much with the money, but her reputation to doing her business, and she has to close the business. because of this type of defamation. Right? So let me show you another one.
But never entered the courtroom today after Judge Kenneth Brown dismissed the defamation lawsuit filed against Kelly Murphy. She was accused by a Manchester-based landscaping company of damaging their business through comments Murphy posted on a Bedford mom's Facebook page about quotes for spring yard work.
Kelly has always believed that this was a First Amendment issue and her First Amendment right to post on a closed Facebook moms group questions she had about landscaping and her opinion regarding what their quote was.
The lawyer for Accurate Landscaping says they quoted Murphy a price of $3,400. In one post, Murphy said Accurate's quote was the highest. In another, she said her quotes ranged from $3,000 to $5,000.
Is that Accurate's quote was only for $3,400 on the low end of that range. So she falsely communicated that Accurate's quote was the higher of the two on that range, and that's a false statement of fact.
But Judge Brown ruled this morning that the plaintiff would have to prove special damages, which means financial harm that was directly caused by the statements, and granted a defense motion to dismiss the case. Attorney Foho says this is far from over.
I disagree with the court's ruling concerning the issue of whether Ms. Murphy's statements constitute defamation per se, and we intend to appeal that decision to the Supreme Court.
There's nothing on the record that would indicate that their reputation was harmed in any way. They cannot prove any lost revenue. They can't prove lost clients. And I would argue that if their reputation was harmed, their reputation was harmed by threatening to sue someone over an accurate post.
The appeal is expected to be officially filed with the Supreme Court in the near future. In Manchester, Andy Hirschberger, WNUR News 9. The jury.
Okay, so here another case that the judge dismissed the case about a landscaping company that brought this lawsuit to a lady. She posts online about the high price quotations of the course for the high price that this company charged people for the service. But somehow this company tried to sue her, and somehow the judge dismissed that case because the landscaping company, could not prove they lost the business, revenue, reputation, and so forth. And so that is here in this kind, because soon other people we need to recognize whether we lost the revenues, our reputation was harmed, and so forth. In other words, it's not easy to bring to the court. Anyway, so again, with this kind of problems, as long as to have the right speech, not to say something untruthfully to other people will be safe. If we put something else out there in print, if we publish something that's untruthful, we'll be in trouble. So no matter as a Buddhist, we need to be careful about what we say, what we put out there. And another one I want to bring up here today is that some kind of verbal expression that may stir up the religious hatred. That's when if someone publish or distribute some written materials, recordings, broadcasts, the forums, and so forth, that may influence matter. It means they may incite religious hatred, and it may affect to the believers of any traditions. So we need to be careful about those acts. So when we follow our traditions and we may not like other traditions, and we may print out some materials that may incite the hatred that's made inside the violence. That's made have some false statement about all the decisions. We have to be careful because this may create a problem to ourselves and others. This may lead to violence act that affect to ourselves and others. So in this case, it's still uh, mm, mm, happen in our society, especially we have the um, diverse society. That we need to respect all the people, faiths, and of course we want to protect our own rights, our own place. But in the meantime, we need to respect all people right to believe in all the religions. We're not supposed to spread the malicious statement or print the wrong false statement information about all religions. But of course, in the meantime, we have the right speech in uh, the constitution that we were protected, but still, no matter what, we need to have that kind of respect. Um, Otherwise, we may create this core or these harmonies in our society or communities. Let me show you. There's some debate about this kind of free speech. Uh, uh, when it discuss about how we make comments on other people their belief. And so this happened at the Union General Assembly.
The diplomatic discourse at the UN reflected the anger of the Muslim street. A recent amateurish video posted on the internet, seen as an attack on the Prophet Muhammad, has led not only to violent protests, but also to renewed calls for international anti-blasphemy laws.
The international community must not become silent observer and should criminalize such acts that destroy the peace of the world.
I call for an international instrument to effectively prevent incitement of hostility or violence based on religions or belief.
But the U.S. president defended a freedom enshrined in the U.S. Constitution.
I accept that people are going to call me awful things every day. And I will always defend their right to do so. Americans have fought and died around the globe to protect the right of all people to express their views, even views that we profoundly disagree with.
This debate over whether or not to outlaw the defamation of religion seemed to be settled last year when all UN member states agreed on a resolution that shifted the focus from protecting beliefs to protecting believers. It called upon countries to counter offensive expression through education, dialogue, and debate. But the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, which represents 57 Muslim countries and 1.5 billion people, says the resolution, in fact, demands more action.
And that says calls for adopting measures to criminalize incitement to imminent violence based on religion or belief. So we have the mandate to that, but we have to adopt measures.
Human rights groups say a move to ban such expression outright is a move in the wrong direction.
However disrespectful or hateful or offensive we find some comments on religion, we don't believe that criminal defamation laws are the solution. There are very slippery slope towards censorship.
The debate won't be resolved anytime soon, but one thing world leaders do seem to agree on is the need to resolve it peacefully. Kristen Salumi, Al Jazeera, the United Nations.
Okay, so here you see that there's some kind of dispute about how people have the right to express themselves in the West, and of course sometimes maybe offended to other people, religions, belief. So again, that is the problems that we encounter in everyday lives. So, on one hand, we have the right to express ourselves freely. On the other hand, somehow we have to be careful the limitations of that our expectation, because if we say something that we offended other people, if we incite violence, if we incite the hatred or discord amongst ourselves and others, again, that is the problems that we need to put in considerations. So no matter what, as Buddhists, we need to have that type of proper speech to stay away from those kind of uh, hatred speech, slanderous speech, and so forth, so that at least we can live in harmonies with other people. And another thing we want to move on to discuss today is relate to how we express ourselves when it comes to the time that we interact with other people. Uh, so sometimes if we don't know how to express ourselves properly, and if we have the negative or malicious intentions, those verbal expression may be problematic, and what we call in nowadays terms the bully, the verbal bully. So of course, there's many different types of bully. Uh, it can be physical, verbal, non-verbal, relational, sexual, cyber, and so forth. So the bully, that's if someone has the intention to hurt, to control others, to have the threat on other people. So with the verbal bullies, uh, the words may serve as the weapons to tease, threat, insult, uh, write some terrible notes, information about other people. So again, when others go each other fast, it doesn't make them skinner. If they call someone stupid, it doesn't make them smarter. So we need to recognize how to use our verbal expression in a proper way. Otherwise, it's become verbal abuse, verbal bully. So um, we may not see, we may not hear uh, recognize those kind of vocal bully, but it exists there. So especially for the young people. So when someone is so shy, when somehow they feel that they are isolated from society, when they have so much sensitive, they feel insecure, they feel that they physical weak, they have low self-esteem, or someone may have disability. So those are the people who uh, the potential of being bullied. And so again, uh, this all kind of bullies, and especially here in this case, we mentioned about the verbal bully. So again, verbal bully is like name calling. We call the names of other people. We make fun. We may make some offensive remarks about someone else, about their personalities, about their behavior, about the business, and so on. Or we may joke about their religious faith. We may make a joke about their gender, ethnicity, social economic status, or the way they look, the way they eat, the way they wear the clothes, and so forth. For example, if it was a group of children who make fun of another child because he could not run as fast as someone else, this would be an example of the global bully. So according to the expert, it's about 46.5% of all bullying in school is a type of verbal bullying. So verbal aggressions is when a bully teases someone. It can also include a bully making verbal threat of violence or aggressions against someone uh, personal properties. So that's what happened in our daily life. So if people have intention to use the word as weapons to hurt, to harm, to humiliate another person, um, so that's in the general terms of global bullies. So um, again, if someone uses the language to gain power over the peers or parents, um, uh, if they insult, they make a joke, or they give the threat, that is belong to local bully. So in order to prevent from this kind of verbal bully, especially in the school, they have to encourage the student to speak up, to uh, let the elders or authorities know about those type of bully, because if the bullies was ignored, it may lead to a long-term social and behavioral problems for both the victims and the bully one. Uh, so we need to encourage all the people, especially the young people, to have confidence to accept others without any kind of making wrong statement, wrong judgment, negative judgment about each other. So again, the short-term and long-term effect, especially on children, about the global bullies, it may bring violence tendency. It may change the behavior of the children, making the depression, anxiety, loneliness, low self-esteem, physical illnesses, school absence, suicidal thought, uh, struggle with academic achievement, isolation, lack of interest, and this interest in social activities and fitness use. So again, those are the um, negative effects of the verbal bullying uh, besides other different types of bullying too. So let me show you another clips that demonstrate how verbal abuse or verbal bullies have a negative impact on the mind of other people. It may ruin relationship of other people.
Great video, audio recording that Althea said she taped just this last December. And you didn't know this was being taped at the time, but you're okay with her having done it.
She does it because she cares about me, yes, sir.
Okay, so you're okay, and you're okay with us using it even though it was secretly obtained?
Yep, I just gotta suck up my pride and deal with it.
Okay, this will be the first time that Kevin has heard this, and That's why I want you to, sometimes if you sit back from it and hear it objectively, you might hear something that can help us. So let's give it a listen.
You cannot force me out now. You're doing a damn good job. I'm trying to talk to you. That's not listening. I didn't feel that way. You're not. Well, this is just like you know. Let's get better. No.
Not charming. No. What's your reaction when you hear yourself there? Does that seem like you?
It seems like that version of me. I acknowledge that version of me exists and I hate it, but yeah, I have to admit that's me, but it's not the real me.
Kevin's anger continued to escalate until he threatened to burn the house down. Let's continue to listen.
Okay, rip the camera.
I don't care. I'll give you $100,000. What does it matter? I'll burn down the house and you can rebuild it from that money I'm going to get you. What does it matter?
Think I really want.
Yeah, I think you really do. You sure don't want me to hurt him? Because you're trying to help more if you did. You're as bad as they are. You don't even want to understand. We could work on vocabulary. How do you feel when that's going on?
I feel really sad because I love Kevin.
What triggered this? What was so important that the house needed to be burned in?
I came in, he was sitting in his office very depressed. I asked him what's going on, and then he got angry because I didn't know.
You came in and said, "Are you okay?" And your reaction was, "You want to know whether I'm okay or not." So again, the expectation that everybody ought to know what's going on with you and where you are in that moment and read your mind and be tuned in.
To me, it's more like, hey, you've been with me long enough, you really ought to know all the different things that bother me, and so it's really a stupid question to have to ask. It's like, you ought to know what's going on.
Is there a point during this when you say, I need to shut up?
It's more, I would like to stop, but there's just no way I can rein it in.
How does it end then?
It diffuses over time. It just burns off after all. We've learned to separate ourselves one way or another. Either I'll leave the house, and, or she will leave the house. It just seems like even going to separate rooms isn't enough.
But he hasn't physically attacked you.
No, never.
Why not?
I care about her too much.
But I mean, you're yelling at her. You're all this. How are you able to put up that boundary?
I guess there's this part of me that incorrectly believes that the yelling doesn't hurt. I know that's very wrong. I know we've watched you enough to know that the verbal abuse is just as bad as the physical abuse.
No, it's not the same. It actually hurts a lot longer and a lot deeper. And it does hurt, right?
Yes, for a long time.
It hurts you desperately.
It makes me change my behaviors because I never want to hear that again.
Yeah.
And what I found is by changing my behaviors hasn't helped at all. I learned triggers. If I'm not ready to go before Kevin is, I'm in hot water. So I'll go sit in the car and say, I'll wait for you in the car.
Has helped a lot, though, but please know it has helped a lot. You have done so much in the last 2 or 3 years to help tone this down. I don't want to say where it would be if you hadn't done the millions of things you've done to make this work every hour of every single day that we're together. And I just want to make sure you.
Well, I do appreciate you saying that, but that's you should not have to. Because you're not the person. Yeah, I know, but listen, you should not have to go sit in the car and wait for him just to be sure that you don't trigger something in him. That's not reasonable behavior. That you've got to be worn out.
Okay, here another clip. We see that somehow this man, he could not control his anger. So even he loved his wife, but somehow he expressed his attitude, his thought in the violent ways and in the abusive way. So sometimes the verbal abuse may have long impact than the physical abuse. So that's why even we love someone, but if we could not control our emotion, especially the anger, is sometimes we express that kind of verbal abuse to other people, and this have a long impact uh, negatively on themselves and others. So in order to diffuse those kind of problems or reduce the verbal abuse, we need to control our emotion, especially the anger. It may bring the harms to our relationship with other people, even we love them pretty much. So that's why somehow if we don't know how to control our mind, it's not easy to control our speech. So we need to be careful what we put out there verbally, because the things we say, it may affect other people's behavior, uh, personalities, even their lifestyle too. So if it's harm still, we can put it out there. But if negative, is better for us to restrain ourselves. Uh, so again, another clip I want to share with you that relate to the verbal abuse. That we need to be careful when we express ourselves.
I'm not away from you. You see what you've done this time? This is all your fault. Okay, this coming. Don't be selfish. Wait a minute. Let's have a read, shall we? He says I'm really mature for my age. Loser more like. He's a friend. He sits next to me in English classes. Oh boy, I want to sit next to you. I can't believe you write this drivel. It's pathetic. Pathetic.
Do you think I'm here to clear up after you? You're useless. Do you know that? Not my job. What is this idiot?
Whether it's words, constant criticism, or even a silence, if you hear it often enough, you might start to believe it. This is emotional abuse. If it's happening to you, don't ignore it. You can talk to children.
Okay, again, you see that sometimes if we are not mindful with what we tell other people, especially our negative expressions, that affect to other people's mind and lives tremendously in the negative way. So no matter who we interact with, we need to watch out how we express ourselves. So again, in Buddhist view, if we don't like anyone else, if at that moment we have all kind of emotional problems like anger, jealousy, and so forth, it's better to walk away from the situations or other people instead of expressing those thoughts through our verbal expression. And again, this may bring the harm unto others and ourselves. So since time is up, let me finish up today, and next time we can discuss more how to deal with this type of wrong speech. So we need to develop the pleasant speech and the compassionate speech, the understandable speech, and so forth. Okay. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. See you soon. Thank you.